570 targeting BRA 050 40-25.000 διπλή επαφή.
Star Blue Fence-In, subscribe και σχόλιο και join για τα έξτρα πλεονεκτήματα.
Welcome to another episode of the X-Fighter podcast. With this episode, we have the honor and the privilege to have with us Antonio Mancebo Marin from the Spanish Airforce. This is an English-speaking podcast, and we are pleased to hear what Antonio has to say about his experiences with the Spanish Air Force, flying the F-5, the Spanish version, and also the EF-18 Hornet. A little bit of the warning here, we had some troubles with the audio while recording this podcast, so please bear with us and be kind. I have also provided Greek subtitles for those who want it. I hope you still enjoyed this episode. Hello, welcome everybody to X-Fighter podcast. I'm very pleased to have here with me tonight Major Antonio Mancebo Marin from Spain, an active duty pilot for the Spanish Air Force, and he agreed to come and visit us and talk us about his experience in the Spanish Air Force. Antonio, I'm very happy to have you here with us tonight. I will start with the first question, which is pretty much standard. When did the idea to become a fighter pilot first came into your mind?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here in your podcast. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by you and to have the chance to have a couple of hours chatting about the fighter planes, about aviation, and as you said, just having a coffee together, two fighter pilots, just talking about what we more love more, that is flying planes, and after that talking about our flying. So your question was when I wanted to be when I knew that I wanted to become a fighter pilot, right? So it goes back to my very young childhood, because I don't even remember when I made the decision. It was pretty easy to me since my father was a fighter pilot already. So I grew up watching my father flying fighter jets. He flew the F-5. He flew the T-33 Shooter Star. So for me, my father was like a Superman, like a superhero. He passed away last year, so this goes to him also. And yeah, it was my creation, not only to become a fighter pilot, but to become the man I am today. No doubt about it. And to make it worse, if I had any doubt, when I was 15 years old, Top Gun came out. So there was no escape. There was no escape for me. I just put all my effort in getting into the Air Force Academy and becoming a fighter pilot.
So, when did you enter the Air Force Academy?
Okay, so when I finished my high school, I started to study physics, because that will make it easier. First of all, I did like it, physics, and it was like my B plane. Since I guess in Greece is the same, it's pretty hard to get into the Air Force Academy. There's around, let's say, 4,000 candidates, and they take only like 40, so it's kind of hard, and you have to be a little bit lucky also. So my B plan was studying physics and maybe becoming a civilian pilot later. I started to study physics while I was preparing the exams to get into the Air Force Academy. I tried twice, failing, and in the third time, which was my last chance, I was lucky enough to get into the Air Force Academy, and that's when my dream began to come to form and to be the reality that is today, that is flying fighters in the Air Force.
Okay, was there a prerequisite for you to have other studies before entering the Spanish Air Force Academy?
Okay, if I understood, you're asking me if there was another way to get into the Air Force Academy? Okay, so if you wanted to be a fighter pilot, the only way to become a fighter pilot is through the Officers Air Force Academy. You can become a pilot in the Air Force, flying choppers or transport planes by other means, like having a civilian license, and then you go through let's say 1 year training to be an officer, and then you become a transport pilot. But if you want to be a fighter pilot, the only spots available are if you go through 5 years of Air Force Academy. That is you get into the Air Force Academy, you get your military and your science training, like in the U.S. Air Force, and then you get your flying training. And out of these, let's say 40 people, about 15 will get a spot to be a fighter pilot. So yeah, Spain is making, depends on the year, between 10, the 10 is the less, and up to 20 fighter pilots per year. So yeah, it's a tough career to get in, but it's worth it, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So, you said that you studied physics because that was plan B, correct? Okay. So, and I thought you said that it would help you entering the academy. Did you say that?
Yeah, um, you get into the academy back in those years. You go through we call it in Spanish oposición, which means you go through a trial that it goes from medical check to sport event, not sport trial, to physics, mathematics, chemistry, English. So they will rank everything, and out of, in my year, it was like 4,000 people, 3,000 maybe the journalists. They will choose the best 40, 45, 50. It depends on the year, how many people they are taking. So it's really tough. You have to really focus on that for 1 or 2 years in order to get the highest rate that you can, because you're competing with all these boys that they also want to get into the academy.
Okay, excellent. So, when you enter the academy, what comes first? The military training per se, this first 1 month or 2 months of only physical and hard training in order to forget your civilian life, like we see in the movies, or it was more an academic thing in the first year?
Okay, so my experience getting into the Air Force Academy was uh, this test that I told you they were taking on July 1993, I remember. And you have to wait like 10 days to get the result. Okay, I have done this 2 years prior, 2 times prior to that, and always failed. Well, the second time I got into the Army Academy, and I have the chance to get into the Army Academy, but I declined the offer, and it was a big deal because getting into the Army Academy will assure you, a position in the government, a job for life. You just have to drop your dream, about flying jets, and it was a really big temptation. But I decided to give it another chance. So this was in 1993, and when I got the results, it was like 8 o'clock in the afternoon. I told my dad, I told him, and I went out with my friends, and I don't remember anything until the next morning. That then I flew to Malaga, where my family was spending the holidays, and it was like my dream summer, because I knew that in September I will be fulfilling my dream of entering the Air Force Academy. September comes, they give you a train ticket to the Air Force Academy, a little bag, and it's like the first thing that you know. They cut your hair, they teach you how to form. Everyone is screaming at you. You have to run. There's a tradition there in the Spanish Airforce Academy until 10th of December. That, as you know, is Loreto Virgin. That is like aviation in Spain. We say patrona. I don't know what's the term in English. Well, until that day, that there's like a ceremony that we call Jugar Bandera, that is like saying to the Spanish flag that you are protecting Spain for life. Okay. Until that day, from September to December, you are not allowed to walk. You only can run or stay still. And well, a lot of other traditions that I'm sure you have also in the Greek armed forces that make it really like a really big adventure, and for a kid that is like, if he's 20s, it's really like a movie. And it was, for sure, it was hard, but it was so fun. And the friends that you make there they are just brothers for forever, because they make it tough, but also they make the people come together as you will not see in other, in the university maybe, or in a civilian job. So I guess we all, that have been through military have the same sense of brotherhood and brothers in arms that we feel when we get into the armed forces, right?
Yes, exactly. Many similarities with Hellenic Air Force Academy. In fact, in the Hellenic Air Force Academy, until you get to the third year, you still running. For 3 years, you run all the time or stay still, as you said. When did you fly your first airplane? We call it the screening, the propeller aircraft, to see if you have any physical restrictions about flying. When did this happen?
Okay, so the Air Force, the Spanish Air Force, is 5 years, and the official flying training starts in the third year. Right now, they start flying the Pilatus, the P-41, I think is which is a great turboprop plane. We started to fly the Pijan, which was a plane from Chile. It has 350 horsepower, fully acrobatic, tandem seat, similar to a fighter, but it was a really hard plane to master because it didn't have the aerodynamic. It was not. It really was not nice plane to fly, and it never been popular among the pilots. But it was a good test. Prior to that, in the first and second year, you have the chance in the weekends, and it was fully voluntary, and most of us wanted to do. We could do some self-learning that the Air Force will facilitate to you, so you get the chance to fly a little bit and to learn the basic about aerodynamic, stall, a little bit of slightly acrobatics. But I remember that the first time that I really flew the plane was in the third year, and I just took off. I did all the procedures by heart. As you know, it's like a sacred to be very, very professional with every step of the briefing and the procedures. And I just got to the sector, which was barely 15 miles from the airfield, and I was doing a loop, and I was doing a roll, and I was just like 10 minutes into flying, and I already was doing aerobatics. So that's the way that you are introducing to flying in the Air Force. I have some friends that they were doing the civilian pilot license, and they never went through more than 60 degrees, So yeah, that's the plane in the third year with this plane called Pillan, that we call Pillan. That will be the plane that will determine if you're going to be a pilot or not.
Okay. How many hours did you do in this first plane?
Barely 50 hours. 50, yeah, 50. And you will have to be solo flight in about 10 hours. If you don't make it solo flight in 10 hours, 10 hours or less, I don't remember the exact number, but it will be around that. Then you will be disqualified to become a pilot, and you will be still in the Air Force, of course, but you will be in interceptor controller, or you will be security or whatever, okay, logistic, whatever. But that was a really stress test because we all wanted to be a pilot. So obviously, we all went through the medical checks in the first years. So we all were able to be a pilot as medical talking about. But you have to go through those 2 weeks, that in 2 weeks, you have to be able, 3 weeks, you have to be able to fly solo. And that was tough. There was a lot of pressure on that. But at the end, that pressure is also part of the learning, because you will have a lot of other times where you have a lot of pressure on the plane. And if you're not able to go through that pressure, you're not going to be a good pilot. Like, I'm sure it has happened to you thousands of times, not thousands, but many times during your career, emergency or QRA or things that for most people will be super stressful, and we kind of are trained to cope with that in a way that you keep calm and you focus on the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Almost the same. Until the third year, what did you do in the academy? Only athletics and academic courses on the classroom, in the classroom.
Okay. So the academy is like a university where you get a science degree. So you are doing like 3 or 4 things at the same time. You're going through your military training, you're going through physical training, pretty hard physical training, and you're going through your flying training and through your academic training. So it's like in fact, our academic teachers, they were coming from the University of Murcia and the University of Cartagena, which are nearby the Air Force Academy. So we have civilians, university teachers teaching us academics. We have athletics teaching us physical training, and we have pilots teaching us aerobatics and flying, and we have military tough guys teaching us military training. So we have kind of like, we were acting like army guys, doing things on land with all type of weapons and maneuvers, and kind of learning to fight on the ground, to march, parade, and everything. And on top of that, everything else. Yes. So it was a very, very busy days. You have like 24 hours since like 40 hours. Yeah.
Did you sleep in the classroom? Because this is a very common thing in the Hellenic Airforce Academy. Because you are doing so many things during the 24 hours, there is no time. Your sleep is not enough. So it was a very common thing back in my days to fall asleep in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we yeah, we have a lot of stories about that I remember now. On the classroom, it was hard to stay awake sometimes, but if the teacher was very focused on the 40 of us. But when it was very hard to step awake is when the whole cadets from the academy, we went to this main class, Machina class, and we attended a lecture of someone, and the lights were, a little bit dim, and the lecture was boring. Then and there was, there was this lieutenant just looking for people sleeping. And of course, they would get punished and not go out on the weekend. So it was really hard to focus on not being, not falling asleep. And also we have well, he's a very good friend of mine. You know, is we all have our nicknames, and his nickname was Chinese. Okay, and his nickname was Chinese because his eyes were, Chinese looking, and he got punished for falling asleep without falling asleep many times. Because the teacher will think that he was sleeping, and he was not.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get away the academy thing so we can move on to airplanes that we love. So in 5 years, when you graduate the academy, you actually get a bachelor degree of a science. So it's an actual bachelor degree, like if you have been to a 3 year or 4 year college somewhere else in Spain.
Yeah. You get that bachelor degree in. It has a specific name because it's science of industry of military blah 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 whatever. Because it's kind of like you mix a lot of different subjects to make what Spain thinks is the best future leaders of the armed forces. So you do a lot of course, science related with aeronautics, like engines, rocket engines, aerodynamic, and so on. Physics, of course, but you also do a lot of study a lot of military history, psychology, leadership psychology, uh, international war law, and basic law. So they try to give you the best tools that you will need as an officer in the future. And yeah, after these 5 years, you in fact you have to make a thesis. I don't know if in English you say that, but it's like a work that you have to do at the end, little investigation paper that you will have to present to your teachers. So yeah, you get that humanistic training and teaching that is for sure very useful in the future. And in the other hand, everything else. And if you ask me about flying, that this third year they choose who is more or less who is going to be a pilot. In the 4 year, they will choose in which category of pilot you're going to be in. And in the 5th year is when you are going to fly that specialty. So it's 5 years of Air Force Academy, 4 years you spend it in the Air Force Academy. The 5th year will be you will go abroad to fly fighters, to fly choppers, or to fly transport planes, or to learn how to be an interceptor controller.
So it's
And
like,
then you will come back to get your
Mhm.
lieutenant stars and
Yeah.
for that
So
graduation ceremony.
So the 5th year is like, let's say, type rating. If you selected to be a fighter pilot, you would go to the plane that you are going to fly to get trained for 1 year. And when you finish, you will come back to the academy to get your sword and be an officer, correct?
More or less. If you get to be a fighter pilot, you will be to Badajoz, where the F-5s are. So F-5s are mainly only to train future fighter pilots. So you will have to go through the fighter pilot training course in order to get to the Eurofighter or the F-18. And still in that year, usually there's 1 or 2 people that will be dropped from fighter pilot to transport pilot. So yeah, is that 5th year, if you are, for example, a helicopter pilot, you will go to Granada, where is the helicopter training school, and you get to fly the helicopter for the first time. And is after this 5th year that you will get your first appointment.
Okay. So what was your course from the 5th year onwards, please?
Okay, so my 5th year, well, some of the pilots were selected to go to Shepard in US. That we still do that. In fact, right now, since the F5 is, getting to the last years of life. We are sending people to the US to support training, and we are sending people also to Italy to this training in Creta. And also we are still training our own pilots in Spain. I went to Badajoz, and I did my training in the F5. That's the first time that I got to fly the F5 as a student.
Okay, and did you have specific phases on the training? For example, the first phase would be basic training on maneuvers, etc., and then the second phase would be how to employ weapons. How was the training in the F5?
Okay. Yeah. So the first phase was just training flying the plane. It was learning to take off and land. The F5 is especially tricky landing because it has such a small wings, and you have to go pretty fast in order to prevent stalling the plane, especially on base. We have had some accident on base. Right now, it's easier because we have the F5 has gone through a modern MLU, middle life upgrade. So you have now a head up. You got to see the alpha that you are flying, the bracket on the side, similar to the F-18 and F-16. But back on that time, you only have the speed. You didn't have a head-up display. You didn't have anything like that. So it was easy for a student to stall the plane on base if you were not flying carefully. And also, you know that the F5 is flying pretty fast for the instrument, for flying an ILS. So that was like the first go, no go criteria. You have to be able to be solo flying the F5 in about 3 weeks. And it was not an easy task. Once you went through that very basic maneuver with the F5, you go through formation, 4-plane formation with all type of braking, doing some basic aerobatics in close formation also was part of the training. Then you go through tactical formation flying, like spread, and doing high turns, low altitude, 400 knots, 4Gs turns, and then also going up to flight level 300 and doing what we call it fluid turns, where you have to manage your geometry in order to stay in place. Because as you know, the engine doesn't work that much flying an F5 that high. And after that, the fun part started, which was air-to-air combat. We did 1v1, then 2v1, and then 2v2. And we also have low-level routes. Learning how to plan it, learning how to plan attacking a target. How do you plan the weaponry and all that stuff? And then we got the chance to go for 1 week. You go to the range, a shooting range of Bardenas, which is up in the north of Spain, and you get the chance to shoot practice bombs and also rockets. Okay, so it is a pretty complete training that goes on for a year. It's about 120 flying hours. So yeah, it's pretty good training for sure.
Yeah. And where did you go after that when you became an officer?
Okay, so I got the number one flying. I got the best grade. And for that reason, I was like in the movie. I was kept in the training school as a instructor right away, from learning to teaching in 6 months. So I stayed there as a instructor, flying instructor for 4 years more, and then in the F5, I flew a lot because I was flying At that time, the F-5 was part of the active force, Air Force of the, meaning that we were involved in a lot of exercises and all that, and that was flown. Our role in those flights was fully fighter pilots, and also we have the role of instructors. We got the chance to train Argentinian pilots. We also have some Argentinian instructors in our staff that will tell us stories about the Falklands War and all that. That was very interesting. And of course, we are brothers from the Hispanic, nation. And also, that means that I was flying around 250 hours of F-5 per year, which is like flying every day 1 or 2 times. So that was a great thing to do when you're a lieutenant, for sure, because it gave me the tools to be a better fighter pilot in the future. After those years, I got a spot in the F-18. I went first to Zaragoza for the F-18 training, and then I went to the Canary Islands.
Okay, let's stay a little bit on the F-5 career. So total 4 years, being both an instructor pilot and an active duty pilot performing fighter duties, not only instructor. What was the most difficult? Do you remember a very difficult time during these 4 years in the F-5? Do you have something very difficult that you remember?
Okay, if you are asking about difficult times, okay. If you are asking about difficult in the meaning of flying, just flying, well, we have big exercises in the Canary Islands, so we have to fly the F-5s all the way from Badajoz to the Canary Islands. We didn't have the proper navigation means, so I remember we were trying to keep in the airway, just looking at the trails of the commercial planes. So that way we will know if we were on the track or not. Also, the radios didn't work that well, so sometimes we were no radio communication like for 30 minutes, and we have to ask the Iberia planes to talk with us to the Moroccan Casablanca control agency in order to let them know what we were doing. And those were very big exercises that we did in the Canary Islands with F-18s, with F-1s, and we were just like the worst plane, that
Yes.
that you don't see anything, you don't have a radar, you're flying 200 miles from the coast, and you're going 200-300 feet above the water, and you're feeling like you're flying, back in the 70s or in the 80s, because you are in a modern arena, but you are flying a plane like in the Vietnam era,
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And of course, the harder time it was in 2003 that we didn't have accidents for like 10 years, but we were only in that squadron. I think we were 12 pilots, and we lost 2 pilots in 2 different accidents in 3 months. So that was a shocking time. That was the first time that I realized how dangerous the job was. And it was the first time that I was really touched by, what we all have suffered in this job. That is losing a friend, a camera, a pilot buddy that is next to you this morning, and that afternoon you're telling his wife that he's gone. So that's the toughest, as you know.
Okay, let's go now to the Hornet. When you transitioned to the Hornets F-18, when did this happen? What year?
Okay, this was back in 2003. So I was very lucky because 2002, Spain got involved in upgrading the F5, and I was chosen among other 2 or 3 pilots from the squadron to fly these new prototypes of the F5. So this new prototype of the F5, flying it together with test pilots, Spanish test pilots, I got the chance to be not a test pilot, but to fly with a test pilot for 6 months and doing a lot of test flying as a we were on the plane as a kind of like safety pilot, but you get the chance to see from inside how is the job of a test pilot. So I perform a lot of test flights. I attended a lot of test flight briefing and debriefing with the engineers. So I got the chance to be in that little wall of test flying for 6 months, and it was very interesting. But also gave me the chance to fly my plane, but with modern cockpit, because the new F5, you have a head-up display that I didn't test until 2002 when I was in this test flying, and I also have the crystal cockpit with everything digital. We also have finally GPS with an inertial navigation system. So it was like a preview to my transition to the F-18. And when I got to the F-18, I went to Zaragoza, and it was really, it was, I wouldn't say easy, but it was like if you have a car from the 80s and they give you the same model but bigger, and from the 2010. So everything is bigger, everything is more easy, the sound in the cockpit is lower, everything makes sense, the procedures are easy. So I was very, very happy to transition to the F-18 and to get the chance to fly the F-18.
Mhm. What is your favorite thing about the Hornet? What do you think that the Hornet can do very, very nice and very, very good, comparing to your experience from an F5 or with talking to other pilots?
Okay, if we talk about the aerodynamic, about how the plane flies, is extremely good flying very low speeds. You have control over the plane at the speeds that most planes are already departing. So it's very friendly for the pilots flying BFM. And I say this because I see the YouTube videos of DCS, and you see that flying BFM, most of the people, they take the Hornet, or they take maybe a flanker. But the Hornet is such an amazing plane flying BFM, Also, if we talk about the engineering behind the F-18, it's very pilot friendly. Like the setup of the screens, the way you are seated on the plane, and the way you can improve the architecture of the plane from the point of view of the engineer. The F-18 that I fly now and the F-18 that I flew back in 2003, they have nothing in common. Talking about avionics.
Yes. Let's stay to the old one. Let's stay to the old one because I have a separate question about the upgrading. Okay? So, about the old one.
Okay, so the old ones. Compare with the planes back on those times, it could do anything. I mean, I went to the TLP, and when we raised our capabilities, they say the Tornado, the F-16. In fact, we have some Greek F-16 back there. I don't remember the name, but they were pretty good. And they kind of stick into an area of the air combat, right? Like we can do SEAD and we can do air to air. We are specialists in doing bombing. We can do anything. We can shoot a harm. We can shoot a harpoon. We can shoot an Ambran, Sparrow. We can throw bombs. We can laser bombs. So the F-18 was back on the strength already. Like anything you can do on the air, the F-18 can do it. And it can do it in a very friendly way. So the pilot can, not only the plane can do it, but the pilot can learn how to do it with little training. Okay. So what you found yourself is that you were a pilot that can do anything. The bad or the bad side of that is that you didn't have enough training maybe to be an expert in SEAD. But you flew like maybe 10, 15 missions of SEAD per year, and that will give you the enough knowledge to do it fairly good. So yeah, I will say the flexibility and the really enhance of multi-role. I mean, if there was a multi-role plane back on those years, I would say it was the F-18.